At the Trump EPA, the one big beautiful bill was filled with many big beautiful wins for the taxpayer. It delivered a sledgehammer to the Green New scam. Billions of dollars rescinded. It's a big deal for the American taxpayer who sees money go through pass-throughs that are filled with self-dealing and conflicts of interest. They see unqualified recipients. They see reduced agency oversight, and they want accountability with their tax dollars, and they got it.
It's going to create a third political party. Are you worried about the impact that could have?
No, I think it'll help us. It'll probably help. Third parties have always been good for me. I don't know about Republicans, but for me.
Are you second guessing any of the cuts that DOJ made? Since you described it as off the rails
Look,
the other day?
we cut hundreds of billions of dollars with DOJ. We could have done it differently. I would have done it differently a little bit, maybe, but it was something that we saved a lot of money. You can always second guess. I guess some of the people in this room maybe would have done it slightly differently, and some would have done it exactly the way it was done. But it was dramatic, and it was important, and we found a lot of things like billions of dollars given to people for environmental protection where they had $100 in the account, like in Atlanta, Stacy. And then you had another one with 20 billion here, and 20 billion here, and 2 billion here, and 15 billion. And Lee, you might want to mention just a couple of those things. We really got because of DOJ.
At the Trump EPA, the one big beautiful bill was filled with many big beautiful wins for the taxpayer. It delivered a sledgehammer to the Green New scam. Billions of dollars rescinded. It's a big deal for the American taxpayer who sees money go through pass-throughs that are filled with self-dealing and conflicts of interest. They see unqualified recipients. They see reduced agency oversight, and they want accountability with their tax dollars, and they got it. In the example of the Stacey Abrams connected NGO, they received $100 in 2023. They got $2 billion in 2024. They had to complete training on how to develop a budget that was put into their grant agreement. They, out of nowhere, started paying a CEO $800,000, a COO $450,000, 22 people making over 150 grand. Out of nowhere, this is tax dollars. So money go through pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, through other pass-throughs, and we lose oversight over it. And you see that it's going to former Biden officials, it's going to former Obama officials, it's going to Democratic donors. And we're not here saying we want to take money from a left-wing NGO and give it to a right-wing NGO. We want to give it back to the taxpayer. This is about us being good stewards of American tax dollars without any apology or regret. That's why President Trump was elected last November. Because there are a whole lot of people who maybe they hadn't voted Republican in a long time. Maybe they didn't even vote for President Trump the first time around in 2016, but they're regretting that vote from 2016 and they were making it right in 2024. So the one big beautiful bill gave us the tools to rescind billions of dollars more. We're seeing hundreds of thousands of dollars that'll get wasted per electric vehicle as an example of this money that was going through it. They gave $50 million to a group called Climate Justice Alliance. They say that climate justice runs through a free Palestine. The Biden EPA gave $50 million to a group that says the climate justice runs through a free Palestine. We say that if you're going to spend $1 in the name of remediating an environmental issue, then spend $1 on remediating an environmental issue. We say that we can protect the environment and grow the economy. We want to help grow more baseload power in this country. So why is it that it took this long for this team to get assembled, to be able to fix the mess that we inherited? But gosh, we love showing up at our jobs every single day, first thing in the morning, because all day long we get things done for the American taxpayer. And Congress did its part last week by passing one big beautiful bill to deliver this accountability and to cut off the Green New scam. So maybe it's a bad day for Stacey Abrams. Maybe it's a bad day for all those well-connected Democrats getting paid off. But you know what? God bless America. Because at the end of the day, President Trump is here, J.D. Vance is here, and the greatest cabinet ever assembled to deliver that much-needed and highly demanded accountability.
Mr. President, on Ukraine.
That was a very good.
The pursuit of fiscal solvency often, requires a blunt assessment of how public funds are distributed under the guise of progress. When the Department of Government Efficiency began its work, skeptics questioned whether the aggressive reduction of federal spending would compromise essential services. Yet, recent disclosures regarding the scale of mismanaged grants suggest that these cuts are not merely elective, but a necessary corrective. At the heart of the current debate is the revelation of massive capital transfers to organizations with minimal operational history. We are seeing instances where entities holding negligible balances suddenly received billions in taxpayer funding. This rapid escalation of public investment into unproven organizations raises fundamental questions about the criteria used for selection and the mechanisms of federal oversight. One specific case involves an environmental NGO that transitioned from a $100 balance to a multi-billion-dollar grant within a single fiscal year. Such a shift is statistically anomalous and points to a breakdown in standard vetting processes. It appears that instead of rigorous technical evaluation, funding may have been directed toward politically aligned groups with little capacity to manage such vast resources. The internal economics of these recipients further illustrate the problem. Once the federal funds were secured, executive compensation reached levels that far exceed standard nonprofit benchmarks. When public money is used to fund massive salaries for administrative roles in groups that lack a basic budgetary framework, the primary objective of the grant becomes secondary to the enrichment of the organization itself. Furthermore, the lack of transparency is compounded by a complex system of financial pass-throughs. By moving money through multiple layers of intermediaries, the trail of accountability is effectively obscured. This complexity makes it difficult for the public to track where their contributions eventually land, often finding their way into the hands of former officials and well-connected partisan donors. Beyond the financial discrepancies, there is a concerning trend of mission creep. Federal environmental funding is increasingly being redirected toward ideological agendas and foreign policy stances that have no direct link to ecological remediation. When domestic tax dollars are used to subsidize groups focused on geopolitical conflicts rather than local environmental goals, the original legislative intent is abandoned. This shift toward ideological funding suggests that many environmental initiatives have become a vehicle for political patronage. The term green scam is used by critics to describe a system where environmentalism serves as a moral shield for the redistribution of wealth to political allies. This environment fosters a culture of self-dealing and conflicts of interest that undermines public trust in government institutions. Restoring accountability requires more than just identifying waste. It necessitates a structural change in how the bureaucracy operates. The current administration argues that reclaiming these billions is an act of stewardship. By rescinding funds from unqualified recipients, the government seeks to return to a model where every dollar spent must be justified by a clear, measurable benefit to the American taxpayer. The broader societal implication is a demand for a government that respects the labor of its citizens. Taxpayers are increasingly skeptical of an expansive administrative state that operates without effective checks. They are looking for a system that prioritizes economic growth and fiscal responsibility over the maintenance of a well-connected political class that thrives on non-transparent federal grants. Ultimately, the debate over government efficiency is a debate over the nature of power and the limits of state spending. True reform is not about shifting funds from one political side to another, but about ensuring that resources remain with the individuals who earned them. If the state cannot act as a responsible guardian of public wealth, the only rational solution is to reduce the scope of its control.